Year 8, Mr. Davidson here, and I'm going to talk you through your final week of your project on population and resources. So, last week you continued your journey as demographers, and remember, a demographer is a scientist who studies population. They study the science of demographics. You've started to develop your understanding of how population is growing all over the world. You know how many people roughly live on the planet. You know where the highest concentration of people are on which continents. And you also, from last week, started studying something called the demographic transition. Remember, the demographic transition is the journey that every country is on that shows how their population changes over time as it grows very rapidly, as medicine improves and as development improves, but as birth rate stays high, as death rate is falling. And then as those populations start to stabilize, like in parts of the world like the US or the UK or France, and then eventually as sometimes they will start to decline as families get smaller and families have less children. So that's what you know already. This week we're going to start looking for the final week of our project at the issue of resources, and specifically about water. So we know that there are a huge number of people on the planet, and we know that by around 2100 the population of the planet in theory is going to stop growing and it's going to stabilize at around 11 billion people, which is a huge number. And those 11 billion people all need to drink water. So that's what we're going to look at this week. And there are some actual potentially massive issues that our species, the human race, are facing with regards to the amount of water available on our planet. So by the end of this week, you're going to be experts on this. You're going to know what the issue is, where the issue is going to be most prevalent, so which parts of the world are going to suffer potentially the most from a water shortage. And you're also going to look at some of the solutions to this problem. And you're going to do that by watching a single short documentary that I found for you that is brilliantly descriptive and really easy to watch, which is great. So let's go through your work for this week. You need to do 3 things for us. The first thing you need to do is to create a note-taking table that will help you summarize your information from the documentary you're going to watch. I would suggest that your note-taking table has got these 6 headings in it. So general facts and figures that you can use to support your discussion. What is water used for? And specifically, how much water do we need for different things? And I think that will be quite surprising for some of you. Also, you need to look at which groups of people or which companies or organisations use the most water. Is it you or I as members of the public? Is it companies? Is it farms? Is it governments? Which groups use the most water? I then want you to think about, in your note-taking table, which places, which countries will be most affected by the future looming water crisis on our planet, and also how will these places be affected? So which countries and how will they be affected? And then finally in your note-taking table, you're going to look at this. Is there anything that we can do to reduce the issue? Is there anything we can do to potentially solve or limit the impacts of a growing water crisis on our planet? Some of you might remember that we looked at this a little bit when we were looking at Las Vegas, when we were in school. We looked at water shortages in a single location. But for this piece of work, we're going to zoom out to the entire planet and we're going to look at the issue globally. And that sense of scale is a really important skill for geographers to have. So looking at how can an issue work on a local level in one place, like in London, on a national level in a whole country like the UK, and globally across the whole planet. So once you've got your note-taking table, you need to follow this YouTube link. So I've opened it in YouTube, and if you're seeing a video that looks a little bit like this, in theory you should be doing the right one. So this is the first sort of 12 seconds or so, and it's called Explained World Water Crisis, and it's by Netflix. So this is a video you should be watching. And what I would like you to do as you watch that video is fill out your note table. So by the end of the documentary, you might want to pause it or watch it a few times, you need to know some overall facts and figures about water usage across the planet and how this is going to change in the future. You need to know which groups use the most water, and then you need some specific country examples. So this is the most important part of this week. which countries are going to be affected and how are these countries going to be affected, and finally, what is being done or what can be done to reduce the issue. So once you've watched through the documentary and you've taken your notes in your table, all you need to do is summarize that into a well-constructed, well-written piece of work to fill out your project. Now, if you've been doing your work in a Word document, you can add a different section for each of these. If you've been doing it on PowerPoint, you can add a different slide for each of these prompts. And what I would like you to do to finish your project is to do this. Summarize overall what is the issue with water, and you might want to link that to the stuff you've done on population previously. You need to add some sections or some slides on how much water do different things in our life use. And there's a section in the documentary that looks specifically at how much water different activities, different items, different foods use. And then I would like you to add some sections or slides on which countries will be affected and how. So remember, those are our individual country case studies from the documentary. And finally, are there any solutions to the issue? So once you've finished your project, you need to submit the whole thing from the last 3 weeks in Teams. There's no quiz this week because your project is going to be finished and we'll be marking the finished project. So you need to put all of your work from the last 3 weeks into one PowerPoint or one Word document, and you then need to upload it to Teams. So in Teams, in your Year 8 Geography team, go to the Assignments section and you will see a new assignment called Project 3 Submission, and you'll be able to upload your work through this project. So that's all you need to do this week. Just a very quick, super quick summary. Create a note-taking table. Watch the documentary and fill out your note-taking table, and then neaten up and summarize your notes into your research project on either Word or PowerPoint, and finally submit your project. So draw a table, take some notes from a documentary, flesh out your project on Word or PowerPoint, and submit your project through Teams. If you have any questions at all, please email your teacher or ask us on Teams, and we really look forward to reading your finished project at the end of this week. Have a great week, Year 8.